The legend always began the same way, every single time. When Russia was cornered, invaders marched east with total certainty. A silent partner arrived every time, right on schedule. Not a battalion, not a weapon, a season, cold, patient, ruthless. Russians gave it a name and even a rank. They spoke as if nature wore a uniform. For more than 3 centuries, that legend felt guaranteed. But in Ukraine, the story has flipped. Russia is not defending its homeland in this war. Russia is the aggressor pushing into foreign land, and the force Russia once trusted is now tearing into Russian troops. It is killing Russian soldiers in numbers Vladimir Putin never expected. I am Andrew Collins. I will speak plainly. Here we face hard truths in war and geopolitics. If you value serious documentary work beyond headlines, support it. Please like this video, subscribe, and comment with your thoughts. Share it with anyone tracking Ukraine's front lines closely. Now watch where this reversal becomes impossible to ignore. On January 23rd, United 24 Media published a key report. Ukrainian forces from the country's 7th Army Corps held their lines. They held defensive positions near Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad. The northern sectors of both cities stayed under Ukrainian control. That matters because Russia claimed it captured these settlements. Those claims were repeated, and they were false. The map did not change. Ukraine's defenses there stayed remarkably steady under pressure. But the most shocking part is not Ukraine alone. The most shocking part is what the cold is doing. In the Pokrovsk sector, winter is damaging Russian forces severely. The harm is comparable to Ukrainian firepower, maybe worse. And Vladimir Putin has no clear answer to it. The Kremlin cannot turn General Winter into an ally again. There is no proper gear, no shelter, no logistics fix. Instead, Putin watches his forces deteriorate in open trenches. Soldiers freeze in ditches while the offensive grinds into snow. The question is not whether this is real. The question is how severe it has become now. That assessment comes from Vladimir Polevy. He is the 7th Corps communications head. In a detailed social media post, he confirmed the position still held. Then he described winter's impact on Russian offensive operations. He said data and intelligence show offensive potential degrading now. He said adverse weather is a key driver of that decline. He also pointed to something darker than weather alone. He described systemic disregard for personnel welfare inside Russia. In plain terms, Russia is not caring for its soldiers. The freeze is hitting everything that keeps an army moving. Vehicles are being crippled by cold across many routes. Supply lines slow down, then they stall. Fuel freezes. Equipment breaks under stress. As Russia intensifies assaults near Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad, winter bites. Winter adds a gradual, undeniable decay to that attack machine. Polevy paints a brutal split screen of 2 realities. General Winter plays 2 opposite roles at once right now. For Ukraine, Winter protects the defender, like history once did. Ukrainian forces fortify positions with planning and discipline. They have shelters. They have stockpiles ready. Most importantly, they have heating. That separates endurance from death. According to the BBC, Donetsk temperatures dropped very low. They fell to minus 14 degrees Celsius in early January. That equals about 5 degrees Fahrenheit in the same hours. This was not framed as a one-time shock. It is what winter can look like around Pokrovsk often. Ukraine is prepared, and the system behind it holds. Combat losses are minimized because supply lines stay stable. Reserves exist, and troops can be cycled out methodically. They rotate rearward to warm up, rest, and recover. Then they return forward in order, ready again. That is what professional sustainment looks like in winter. Russia is living in the opposite universe out there. Polevy describes the offensive soldier's life in simple terms. Without vehicle resupply, everything is carried on the back. Maybe a sleeping mat, a sleeping bag, a blanket, maybe a small gas stove, and that is all. That is the full inventory of survival in frost. For assault units, frost multiplies every weakness fast. Russian soldiers are pushed into open terrain without proper gear. There is no intent to sustain them for long. They are treated as expendable again and again. Now consider the trap the cold creates for them. When cold bites through gloves and boots, instinct seeks heat. But on this battlefield, heat becomes a visible beacon. A night fire can appear on infrared from Ukrainian drones. It glows against the dark, bright and easy to track. Minutes later, a drone can turn warmth into a lethal strike. So the choice becomes impossible for a freezing soldier. Risk detection or accept frostbite that destroys hands and feet. Risk a fire or accept hypothermia creeping in. The colder it gets, the deadlier that choice becomes. Then the ground itself joins the assault in winter. Frozen earth makes basic survival tasks much harder. Russian soldiers cannot dig into frozen ground for shelter. They cannot build proper positions when soil turns to stone. They huddle in whatever cover exists, wherever it is. Frostbite attacks extremities, and hypothermia shuts bodies down. Frozen soldiers create frozen front lines that cannot move. That is the betrayal at this story's center now. Putin's army is punished by the force Russia once trusted. Russia believed that force would always tilt battle toward Moscow. But Putin is not measuring suffering in those trenches. He is measuring what he calls progress on maps. He demands his forces keep taking ground around Pokrovsk. He demands motion even when weather makes assaults impossible. The results are predictable, and they repeat every day. Hypothermic soldiers must cross snow and open ground somehow. They are expected to storm fortified Ukrainian positions regardless. Those storms become dribbles, dying men thrown forward. The conditions do not allow an assault to function at all. There is a plain way to see stagnation clearly. Look at the Institute for the Study of War Assessments. The ISW publishes daily reports on Russian operations. Reports from January 24th and January 25th match closely. On January 24th, Russia attacked toward Pokrovsk with no gains. There were no confirmed advances in that direction. On January 25th, Russia attacked again and still did not advance. 2 days, same direction, same outcome, no progress, despite repeated pressure on Ukrainian defenses there. Russia failing to advance while losing many troops is not new, but General Winter intensifies the damage by stripping effectiveness. Winter also adds casualties that bullets and drones do not need to create. Polvi frames the historical irony with a sharp edge. General Winter is portrayed as helping Russia defeat its enemies. He names Napoleon, Hitler, and allegedly democracy itself. That mythology is real, and War History Online tracks its roots. Harsh weather wore many titles in Russian legend. Some called it General Frost. Others called it General Mud. The name changes. The effect stays the same. Nazi German forces learned that lesson in World War II. Their advance during Operation Barbarossa ultimately failed in Russia. Tanks and infantry became trapped in frozen mud near Moscow. They were pushed back from the Eastern Front later. That reversal helped set the stage for total defeat. Even then, Germans had vehicles and tanks as partial buffers. Napoleon Bonaparte's soldiers had no such protection marching in. History keeps one brutal receipt for that campaign. Of 500,000 men who entered Russia, few returned. Fewer than 80,000 came back from that march. The early 18th century offers another warning in winter. Sweden's attempted invasion collapsed under pressure before decisive battle. Sweden lost 20,000 of 25,000 soldiers beforehand. That happened before the Battle of Poltava even started. The battle ended in complete Swedish defeat at last. Sweden lost an entire empire as a result. Across centuries, empires fell to that same Russian general. They were crushed by an enemy worse than swords and bullets. Now Putin watches his imperial ambitions break against it. Only this time, Russia is the invading force. Moscow tastes the same medicine it once forced on others, the same medicine given to Napoleon, Hitler, and Sweden's empire. And Ukraine is content to hold the spoon in place. That turncoat changes the texture of this war deeply. It attacks what armies need most to survive and win. It attacks sustainment, recovery, momentum, and morale at once. Now, the human cost of that collapse is clearer. On January 23rd, Army Inform published a revealing report. It described Russia's winter crisis and soldier treatment near Pokrovsk. It said Russia values these soldiers so little, they are disposables, not only meat for the grinder, but meat freezing solid. Army Inform cited an officer from the Rubij Brigade. The brigade serves within Ukraine's National Guard structure. The officer was Volodymyr Chernyak. Speaking from experience, he described what he sees on the Pokrovsk axis daily. He described thousands of disposables pushed into assault actions. He said they move forward under threats of execution. Chernyak said some suffered minor wounds, then froze to death. Evacuation, if it happens, can take an extremely long time. Evacuation was already weak long before winter tightened its grip. Back in June, the Center for European Policy Analysis noted priorities. CEPA said evacuation and treatment were not Russian priorities. It cited a military doctor speaking to Transformer Telegram channel. The doctor claimed Russian soldiers are not taught basic first aid. Men cannot treat themselves or help comrades with minor injuries. Wounded soldiers are left in trenches, waiting for evacuation. They may wait weeks, assuming help comes at all. Then in June 2024, Verstka reviewed medical papers. It reviewed papers from dozens of doctors in Russia's defense ministry. Verstka found more than 5% of salvageable soldiers die. They are men who could be saved with proper evacuation and care. That reality is brutal even in dry weather. Now add snow, wind, freezing rain, deep mud, and cold. Cold so severe soldiers can barely move their limbs. An evacuation crisis becomes a winter-made hellscape. The wounded often do not get a second chance. Men who might survive with treatment die instead. Those who might carry them out are often not far behind. And Russia is doing virtually nothing to change this equation. Remember Polovy's description of the average Russian loadout. Assaults are launched without vehicle support in many cases. A man carries only what his body can haul. If lucky, he has rations, some fuel, and basic sleeping gear. Many do not even receive that minimal baseline. As far back as December 2022, CNN reported crowdfunding. Russian soldiers crowdfunded boots and body armor for survival. Equipment came from people back home, not from the military. By multiple reports, the situation did not improve by late 2025. The Telegraph reported Ukraine's claim about the Lyman front. It said many Russians were sent without body armor or helmets. This was noted north of Pokrovsk along that axis. In one instance, only 4 groups out of 20 wore helmets. That detail matters more than it first appears. Bare heads in November faced January with rapid heat loss. Nothing stops body heat bleeding out through exposed heads. Then came a solution that reads like a punchline. Russia provided brand new tents, and soldiers expected real shelter. They imagined insulation and trapped body heat. But what arrived were flimsy green privacy tents in practice. The Sun and Militarny reported on them in January. Video showed a Russian soldier giving an expletive-filled verdict. He said setup takes too long and wind keeps lifting it. He said hard gusts make walking while wearing it nearly impossible. These are not proper field shelters for winter warfare. They are portable standing tents soldiers are expected to wear moving. In absurdity, they still reveal something urgent. Forces are desperate for winter sustainment and answers are weak. The Kremlin answers with something like portable shower tents. That is what betrayal looks like in material form. Now the damage spreads beyond frostbite installed assaults, it spreads into command. Russian officers are abandoning posts on the Pokrovsk axis. Morale has collapsed and it shows in formal requests. Requests are submitted to move rearward, anywhere warmer. The Kremlin responds with threats, yet requests keep coming. Russia's front line nears a breaking point under winter stress. General Winter accelerates the fracture everywhere it touches. If this analysis clarified Winter's role, support this work. Like the video, subscribe, comment, and share it widely. Help others understand what unfolds on those frozen front lines. But this is not the first time Ural was pushed hard. On the night of November 13th, Ukraine launched its largest strike. It was the largest strike to date on Russian territory. Ukraine's general staff later confirmed the operation in public. This was not a loose swarm of improvised drones alone. It was coordinated, planned, and timed. Ukraine used domestically built cruise missiles in that strike. The weapons were Flamingo and Bars. They were used in combat officially. Those weapons changed the rules on Russian soil overnight. Across occupied Crimea and parts of Zaporizhzhia, targets were hit. Multiple high-value targets were struck at the same time. Command posts were struck and operations were disrupted. Fuel depots went up in flames during the attacks. Airfields were disrupted, limiting movement and response afterward. While that unfolded, the thermal power plant in Ural went down. Cities fell into darkness, and civilians panicked, as you see.